So good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome to our session this morning. My name is Geraldine O'Reilly, and I work at Clio as a Community and Events Manager. And I'm delighted to be bringing you today's event. This is the fourth of our year-long Making of a Law Firm series. And starting a law firm is tough, and building your firm can be even tougher, especially in times when you can't always meet up or network with peers. So we decided to support the community via a monthly event series that will run throughout 2021 and follow 4 law firm leaders who are on the road to building new and successful UK law firms. So today, in today's session, we're going to discuss one of the areas that for most has become more crucial really than ever before, and that is websites, and how to create a powerful, accessible and persuasive digital presence to attract and secure today's clients. Today and throughout the year, it would be great if you could share your support for this series and for our leaders who are taking the time out of a very, very busy schedule of setting up their firms to come and join us every month. So if you could share support on social media using the hashtag Making a Law Firm, that would be really appreciated. And feel free to give a shout out to our leaders on social as well, to thank them for being so open and sharing their growing pains and their growing successes for the wider audience to see. So today we have asked 2 of our 4 leaders from the series to rejoin us for this subject. First up, we have Alistair Wells, founder and director at 10 Legal. Alistair is an experienced commercial solicitor. He co-founded 10 Legal with his wife Shona in 2020 with the aim of finding a better way to deliver amazing legal services to startups and SMEs. Alistair is known for his approachable manner, zen-like calm, and clear commercial legal advice. We've also got Elena Manukyan, partner at the Injury Solicitor. So in 2020, after seeing that legal services could be delivered from almost anywhere, Elena decided to launch her own firm. Specializing in personal injury law and being a small firm, Elena is able to offer clients a personalized service which you simply don't get from larger firms in the UK. And our guest for today is Rachel Toombs, founder of Orion Legal Marketing. So Rachel was practicing law and was a practicing solicitor for 15 years within both large city firms and smaller regional practices. And during her legal career, Rachel became involved in marketing and business development work that was being undertaken by the various firms in which she worked. She quickly discovered that effective marketing could deliver exceptional results for all their practices. And since leaving the practice of law 5 years ago, Rachel and her award-winning specialist team at Orion Legal Marketing have worked with over 500 businesses and law firms nationally and internationally, delivering bespoke and successful marketing and business development services. So thank you very much for joining us today, Rachel. We're really delighted to have you here. And before we get into it today, I do want to cover off on a couple of housekeeping items. So today's session will be 60 minutes in length. We want lots of Q&A. So if you do have questions, please do pop them into the chat. Just remember, if you want to comment or if you want other attendees to see your questions or maybe your answers, select panelists and attendee in the dropdown, the blue dropdown on your chat. And if you just have questions for our panelists or for Rachel, our expert, put them into the Q&A and we'll bubble them up during the Q&A session towards the end. We will be recording today's session and it's going to be sent out tomorrow. So as mentioned, I work at Clio and Clio is on a mission. We're on a mission to transform the legal experience for all. Being the market leader for legal technology means that we have an added responsibility to set the tone for the next generation and to help ensure that the technology shaping legal experiences is also serving the greater good. So I wanted to recognise that this series is part of that overall mission. And we're really, this mission is a new mission that we established this year. So I also wanted to call out that we won't be going into a lot of detail on Clio today. A lot of the time when we have our webinars, people join expecting to see Clio or to get a demo. We won't be doing that today. So it may come up, but we won't be going into a lot of details. So for those of you who are interested in learning more, I'm going to launch a quick poll. So feel free to let us know if you'd like to hear more about Clio. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'll leave that poll running for the moment, and let us know. Just make sure to click submit when you do tick your answer. But just for a very, very quick summary, whilst that poll is running, Clio is a fully cloud-based case management software, and we provide you with the ability to run your firm from anywhere, at home, in the office, on the go, in court. Once you log in, you have access to everything you need: cases, matters, bills, documents, time recording, and unlimited document storage. Really the central hub for handling cases from intake right through to invoice. We also do all of this with flexible pricing and month-to-month annual subscription model. So giving firms that flexibility that often, especially when you're a new firm or starting out, you might need that extra control over your cash flow. So that is a good model to follow. So that's really just a very, very brief summary of Clio. And we've also worked with are working with the Law Society of England Wales and approved suppliers for the Law Society of Scotland for their members. And those are relationships we've had for a number of years now, and we've worked hard to maintain. We're also, if you're interested in finding out more, you can check us out on Capterra, G2 Crowd, Software Advice. We've over 1,000 ratings and reviews, and on average a 4.7 out of 5 rating. So check us out there as well. And I'm going to end our poll. That's really enough about Clio now. So ending our poll, and if you didn't get a chance, you can still put a message in our chat, and we'll follow up with you afterwards. Okay, so back to our topic of discussion this morning. So gone are the days of relying on network and in-person introductions for client pipeline. Yes, some of that in-person element to marketing may be coming back as we start to ease restrictions in many of our countries, but it's not coming back as fast as many who would have relied on it before would have hoped. So there is a need like never before for law firms of all shapes and sizes to have that powerful, accessible and persuasive digital presence to attract and secure today's clients. Clients expect that, and the good news is it is possible, and you don't need to be a marketing guru or to achieve it, or to work on some of these things. And in some cases, yes, you should get that external advice, and that's why I'm delighted that Rachel is joining us this morning. As mentioned, Rachel has worked with hundreds of law firms, big and small, to help them with their marketing efforts. And along the way, she has encountered many common and costly mistakes. And she's going to highlight some of those in the next couple of slides. And then we're going to go into more of a discussion element to our session. So Rachel, without further ado, I'd like to pass over to you.
Fabulous. So if we click onto the first slide, I've gone through some areas that when you're setting up, some points that you really do need to consider. First off is your name, and we'll come back to that when we're talking with the other co-panelists. So once you've decided your name, go and look on 123reg, GoDaddy, and check if it's available, because that could be a fatal flaw, that you found the perfect name, but you can't get it. So once you've got that, go check, go buy it. My advice is to buy the .co.uk and the .com. I don't think the other ones, the .uk, the other ones are as important. So get your domain name sorted, secure that. Hosting's important. So where are you going to host your website? Because speed is of the essence. So if you're sharing with lots of other people and using a cheaper hosting, you might find that your website won't work as quickly as you want and will let you down. When you've got your website in place, you've got to think about being compliant. If you're ruled by regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority, you need the SRA badge. We've also got data protection, GDPR, to think about. So you need your privacy policy, your cookies policy, complaints policy, price transparency, etc. All of those things you need to think about. Another point to think about is when you've got your website sorted, does it work on mobile? If it doesn't work on mobile or desktop, then that's a fatal flaw, because Google is going to downgrade you if you don't have that in place. Think about also when you're setting up about your sitemap, what is going to be on the navigation bar? How easy is the visitor journey. Can they find easily what services you do? Can they learn more about you? Can they find your contact details? So think about what the site map is, plan that out, use a kind of graph and flow chart. We work with our clients to get that right. Visitor journey, as I said, you want to try and avoid people clicking through and trying to find something. If you make something hard to find, then they're more likely to switch off your website. Content is something you can write yourself if you're that way minded. You know, Google loves content, so the more content you have on a page, great. Now, search engine optimization is definitely something that you probably want to advance onto. You've got to think about things like, well, that's another subject in itself. But search engine optimization is there because once you've launched your website, it's just like an online brochure. You need to drive traffic to it, and that will come through social media, pay-per-click, search engine optimization. Imagery is really important. Professional imagery, if you can. We will come on to that as well. There are free places like Pixabay, copyright free places, Unsplash that you can get imagery from. So, or invest in a good professional photographer. You know, make this individual. And I have to say, looking at Alistair and Elena's websites, they are individual. They've put their own stamps on them. They haven't followed, you know, you can tell it's different, it's unique on there. Profiles, second most visited page of your website is your profile. So really think really hard about what you're going to write about yourself. And I know that's difficult saying I am this, but people buy people. So it's really important that your profiles say that. Be really daring, be really brave, consider video, because video also converts. So if you can put a video about you talking or frequently asked questions, I think that's an excellent idea. Also, somebody might not be ready to book an appointment with you at this point in time. So you can take them on the client journey with you and have things like websites, like downloads. And they can download and find out more about you, like fact sheets. Call to action. How can I contact you? What's your phone number? What's your email address? Is there a contact form on every page of your website? Make it easy for them to connect with you and book that consultation with you. Importantly, is it up to date? Your website is never, I'm really sorry to tell you, but it's never a finished product. It will always need altering. It will always need changing. Google will always want it to feed you more content. It's a hungry beast. It has a hungry appetite and it wants you to keep changing, adding content, adding imagery, etc. So it's a continual investment, but also get your Google Analytics, know the data on your website, take power of that and find out how healthy your website is. Once you know that, you can see which pages perform the best, the worst, etc. And I know on the second slide, what I really wanted to communicate is if you're new, some of the mistakes that I've seen, unfortunately, a lot of our legal clients fall down on. We covered hosting, you know, about being slow in terms of speed. We as an agency use WordPress, and I've seen, unfortunately, many other marketing agencies, etc., say they'll make you a bespoke case management system. Highly advise against that because you need to have power over your website. You should have full admin access. You should be able to go through, you know, you should be able to change things as and when you want to. And WordPress allows you to transfer that or maintain the website yourself. So really do think about that. Out of date, you know, keep looking at your website, keep checking to see that it is no law has changed. You know, you are experts in your field. So make sure that you've got the most recent statute or case law that you're referring to. You might have moved offices, for example. You might have outgrown that or thinking of getting another office now. So just maybe diarise once a month, check that it's there. Typos. Typos are really common, really, really common. Just get somebody else, a family member or friend, to have a look through. I use a great free tool called Grammarly, which you can download on Chrome, and that helps me to spot any spelling or a comma or hyphen I've missed or something. Non-compliant, we talked about that. Make sure you've got your SRA badge. Work with a marketing agency that understands the legal sector and knows what you need to have in it. One big thing I see time and time again is not having an SSL certificate. If you don't have that padlock when you go onto your website, consumers know that that is not a safe site. They would worry about their data. So make sure that you invest in an SSL certificate. Not optimized is what we just touched on, that for the mobile and desktop. When you've got your new website created, check it on all formats, check everything works, check all the tabs, just check through. You can never check enough. As your website evolves, you could have broken links where you'll get the error 404. So again, if you're checking your website and you've diarized it in your calendar, hopefully you'll be the first one to spot these things. Stolen images, we talked again about making sure that you do use copyright-free imagery. You don't want to fall foul of using an image where you shouldn't do. And most importantly, like we talked on before, your website should be earning its keep. But if you don't make things easy for your potential visitors to your website to find your phone number, to find your email address or contact you, you've wasted your time with that website. So calls to action are really clear. And as we said, Google Analytics, you need to have that installed, and you should be looking at that once a month to track what's working and what not. And most importantly, it should be focused on the client, not on you. That again is a big error in terms of copy. Focus on their pain points. So that's been a real train journey ride of what's wrong and right, and I hope that helps.
Thank you, Rachel. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, let you get ready there, and we'll go into our little deep dive or working session where you'll review Alistair and Elena's sites live for everybody. Just to remind everyone, we will be sharing the slides as well, so you'll get all these tips. We are also recording as well, so you can refer back to it too.
Alistair and I had a session before we came on. Are you off mute, Alistair? You can have.
Yep, I'm off mute. Yep.
Well, we were talking about names. So we were saying, Tend Legal. How did Tend Legal come about?
So I think it was one of the hardest parts of setting up the firm was choosing a name, and we just went through this whole process, which took months. But I mean, for us, we didn't want to just use our name. We wanted the feel of the firm to be a bit different. And in the end, Tend kind of describes how we'd like to deal with people's legal work. It's that kind of caring. It's giving something attention and putting a bit of love into it, but hopefully not. It's not too loaded with meaning. In the end, it was the best we could do. I mean, I think you go through this whole process, and in the end, you make a decision, and that's it becomes what it is. But no, it wasn't an easy process.
Well, and also we were saying about Tend, people can spell that generally. It's not a name you've got to think about, people spell that name, or how is it going to do when they put it into Google? People will be able to put Tend Legal, and it has that meaning, that deep, that meaning within there.
And it's like you say, I mean, we had various other names which were in the shortlist, and then the URL wasn't available, or another thing is to check whether anyone's got a trademark in your sector, and so you kind of we had sort of 3 or 4 ideas, and that was one that seemed most available.
Actually, that's a vital point, because I've trademarked Orion Legal Marketing. So trademark your name, protect your name. You've invested that time getting that, so absolutely on there. I love Alistair's website because it shows it's that individuality. You invested in a graphic designer to help you with these beautiful graphics. So it does become different. It does become unique on there. I think when we looked at your impact statement, so it's really, really important that we know that you're legal and that how you can help us. And you do a number of different services. So you do company, commercial and employment, etc. I know that when we discussed this, that you didn't want to be the typical law firm, and you didn't want to typically, and I said, but I would, on this our work bit here, I felt that you could put the company graphics, the commercial, you could have these boxes and you could add these lovely graphics on it, just so I'm really clear about what you
on the homepage, is this?
Yes, yes, in terms on there. But we also, when we had a session beforehand, all of us, we were talking about how important it is for the client persona to knowing who you're marketing to. And you've got a couple of target markets. So you've got your SME and your startup and your existing market. So I wondered, in developing this website, whether you'd put those, make it very clear so people would immediately click on to where, if I'm a startup, I'll have different needs. I'll want terms and conditions, I'll want my website policies, or I'll want all of those things. I mean, this is what we talk about development of the website.
And I think that's a really, sorry,
no,
I think it's a really good point. I mean, one thing, I think when you're starting a business, and I think this was us a bit, you want to tell everyone about your business. You want to say, look, this is us, this is what we do. And actually, as you say, that's fine. And there needs to be a bit of that. But actually, where we need to go with it, I think, is to focus more on the clients and say, well, look, this is what we do for you. This is how we can help you. These are the things we can help with. So I think that's it's a really important point. And that's maybe, for how we develop it and to bear in mind.
Absolutely. I think you could probably bring up your call to action with the book and no fee discovery meeting. I think you could bring it up to here, because it's, what do you want them to do? Bring that right up here. It is just thinking about when they're looking on a mobile, the call to action needs to be much nearer on the top.
Okay.
I think there's a little bit in terms of, I'm a big anti, I'm going to say it's of the welcome to, which is a common law firm thing of the welcome to. It's like welcome to the shop. Yeah. I'd like it to be like more of a client problem in terms of, if you've got are you, I don't know, are you, because I saw your the check my settlement service on your website, I really liked. So it's, do you want to make sure your legal rights are protected? What's their pain points on there? What are they struggling with that they immediately know they need you and your team. They need you and your team on there, on that. Now, what I really loved is the client section. So, I mean, when I look at this, I think, wow, there's all these different organizations that 10 Legal work with. So that's social proof. So when a new client, a new visitor comes on your website, they see that, and that's really impressive. With testimonials, I would try and see if you can combine some testimonials in there again, and have them throughout every page. But I think that's a really good factor in there. I love the fact that you've got sign up to our newsletter, because most law firms will steer away from the newsletter. And I think that's a fatal mistake, because you'll only sign up if you want to. And if you don't want to, you can unsubscribe. But I think, and we talked about your newsletter as well. And again, that shows your personality, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the newsletter is a relatively recent thing. We've done a couple of issues, and the idea is it's as much for existing clients, I think, as new people, or the initial focus was existing clients to sort of, and it's kind of fairly light and informal, and it has links to some recent blog articles and usually a quote and something we've been listening to, or something we've found online that's nothing to do with law, but it's just that kind of, hopefully, people find it interesting. But the great thing, and what we're finding with it, we do it through HubSpot, and you can see, you send out the newsletter and you can see who's opened it, who's scrolled through, what they've clicked on. So, we can continually kind of modify how to make sure that we're putting out something that actually works and that people like, I suppose.
Yeah, I think only thing I changed there is, what are they going to get from your newsletter? They're going to get up to date. Not the, you can again put your personality on this. You don't have, again, where it's, let us help you protect that growing business of yours or something like that. Again, I'd steer away from the dull kind of like just, but and put a bit of personality on it, because the personality is the graphics on it. So I think why, and I think just newsletters are brilliant, and you've invested time in regular blogs. So again, Google will like that, in the sense that your content, you're adding blogs on there. So I think that's great. Only other thing where we were talking about was that I would add your phone number. I talk on the top right hand side. I know you've got contact us, but I would still make it easy for somebody to just quickly give you that phone call on there.
Okay.
So I'm gonna jump in really quickly and just say, I think your website is beautiful. Like, it's so visually stunning. I can't remember whether have you changed it since you started in December, or have you always had this like this?
It hasn't changed much. We've added the newsletter, and the client slider was added. But yeah, I mean, the graphics and everything, it's actually my cousin,
Right.
Rich Wells, and he's a designer and creative director, and it was tricky thinking about, we knew we wanted something that looked different from most existing law firm websites, and you get the cliches of the sort of scales of justice, or the just skyscrapers for more corporate look, and it's all very serious, and we kind of gave him this brief, and he did a great job. He came up with these kind of slightly abstract animations and things, which we just loved.
It's very zen. Like, I feel very calm. Like, I wouldn't come on here and like it's not, it's visually, it's just really calming, and it's just visually very, very pleasing as well to have a look at it. No, I just wanted to to say that whilst we're on there.
Yeah, I agree. It's really engaging, the animations as well, just to get to that when you're on there.
Yes. The only other thing we did discuss yesterday, Alistair, remember we were talking about, because you've had professional photos taken, so you've got on here, there's yourself and Shona. We discussed whether you'd put that on the homepage, because one thing that I do see, again, is a common mistake, is that people worry if they're just a sole practitioner on their own, and it's always, and I get that debate, it's always the I versus us debate. How do you do it? It's a really tricky tightrope to go across on that debate. But I think we know there are there are some dodgy outfits up there, so in terms of where that operate, unfortunately, within the legal sector. And when the client visitor can't find the photo of the person, that's always a concern. So I would say, be proud of yourself, be proud of the fact it's you, and definitely have that photo of you, have that talk about you. Don't become, who are they, who am I picking up the phone to?
Do you think there's a danger in having too much on the homepage? Because this is something that we kind of discussed, and I don't know what your thoughts on that. There's loads of things we'd like to put on there, but then you end up with it too crowded. And
yes, it's got to be clear. It's got to be easy to navigate around. In terms of not too much on the top bar on there. So yes, I mean you've got a lot of essential components on there. Do you only I would probably just maybe a testimonials or the blog, but I think it's nice where you've got it. I can go to where I want to go to on your website. I probably, like we just said, would change the wording more client, just the client pain points on there. But there's, like we said, there's a lot of good starting points on your website. A lot to be proud of, because websites are painful.
Yeah, it's definitely a starting point. I mean, that's the thing. There's loads of things we'd like to do with it, but it's particularly when you're starting, you've got to think, well, what are the essential things you're going to have in place? And it's so easy to get overwhelmed by all of these things that you're told you should be doing, and just to think, well, look, the essentials, and the website is essential to have a website, but maybe, you know, it's not going to be where you want it to be when you start. It's going to be the kind of think about what the key things you're going to have, and then you can build on it over time.
No, well, I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. No, there are some good points there.
I think we'll go to Eleanor's it's the injurysolicitor.com, isn't it, Eleanor?
And I'm just going to remind folks, if you do have questions, do pop them in. We're going to, once Rachel has done a quick review on Elena's site on the Injury Solicitor, we will then get into more Q&A discussion. So if you have questions, pop them in and we'll cover them too.
Okay. Again, Eleanor's site has got her personality, and I like that because that's different on there. I love the logo. I love the Injury Solicitor, and I really like you can see instantly personal injury specialists on there. So I really like that. It's good to see the calls to action, because that's what I find is missing in a lot of law firm words that we work with. My only concern was, and they said you had 2 here, so they were close together, so that's slightly confusing where you've got request a free callback and start your claim together today. I mean, so I'm thinking whether you want to move them around on the mobile, they do sit together on there. But I really like the fact that I can see I'm not struggling to find your phone number. I can see your email address. It's all there. We had a bit of a debate in terms of the imagery of the buildings. So for me, I was feeling on the different service pages that I could slightly confuse you with the commercial property solicitors, because I'm seeing the buildings there. But we discussed that, didn't we, Elena? You were saying.
Yeah, well, it's I know obviously you're sort of pointing out all these positives about my website. What I will say is these are quite recent additions. So I do have my first sort of draft, or my first version of my website, where it didn't look anything like this. You know, it didn't have pictures of me. It was only after I really sought professional advice that I realized all the places where I was going wrong. I didn't have the calls to action. I didn't have my number. I didn't have my email. I didn't have pictures of me. And I was sort of going back to what you just mentioned previously, or sort of hiding behind my website, not wanting to really shout about the fact that it's just me, or I'm a small business. And I was a little bit nervous about that because of the firms that I'm competing with. You know, I'm competing with huge firms, like, you know, large personal injury firms. So actually being a small firm, I almost saw that as, you know, a disadvantage or a negative to me. But actually after a few months, I realized that the clients were coming to me because of me. So I sort of, I mean, my website has probably been a huge pain point for me, because I paid for it and it wasn't really getting the results that I wanted. I didn't spend a lot of money. You know, I had a package deal, and that was for my logo design, for my graphic designs, and for a 2D and a 3D design of my website. But after sort of a couple of months, I realized that the website wasn't generating the inquiries that I wanted it to generate, but there were reasons behind that. And it was because there were no calls to action. You know, I wasn't really explaining anything to the visitors. But in a similar way to what Alistair sort of mentioned earlier, it was about just having a website. So a lot of people, when they're starting out, you know, they're probably still likely working a full-time job. I know I was at the time. So working on the website was an evening or a weekend job, and the last thing you wanted to do is write content on, you know, road traffic accidents or employer liability claims. So it was something that I had to really sort of focus on when I already started, and it became more important to get it right with the imagery. So I'm against showing images of accidents, whether there's people involved or anything like that. I don't do that on any of my social media channels. I just don't like the idea of that, because I think for a lot of people it's a highly traumatic experience, even a minor road traffic accident. So I've sort of made a decision to stay away from those pictures of where you see the 2 cars bumped and you see someone holding their neck, and you know, they're just stock images, just like you have for a lot of law firms. So I wanted to do something different, and I actually wanted images of Manchester because I'm a Manchester-based solicitor, so I wanted to focus on that. And I just didn't know what the alternative was. There's only so many pictures I can put of myself on there before it starts to look strange. So that's where those images, and I did have those images done professionally, and there are more pictures of traffic and things like that, which I could always sort of use to change those ones. It's just the colors I like the colors basically. That's why they're on there.
I love these ones here where on your start your claim, and I was wondering if you would incorporate more of this. Again, this is your individuality, this is where you're at. So I was wondering if more of those kind of images could go throughout on there. It's just a thought. I love the fact you have the photos of you, because it very much is that somebody is engaging with you as as their personal injury solicitor to help them guide through that. I did say about some about accessibility. Again, it's quite a common law thing to have bigger type, so it's easy for somebody, maybe to be able to read through that. You've got your calls to action, but I would make this bigger. You've got your book, your 30 minutes chat on there, make it big and bold. And I know you've done a lot of great work since you set up, so I'd love to see the testimonials flowing through the website on there. And I think you have got on the kind of almost here on the pain points, which I think is further down, where it's an accident doesn't have to be the end of the road. You say we can help. What the client's pain points who are coming to you is they want the medical treatment, they're worried about loss of earnings or compensation. So I wonder if this section could come further up and change, because that's immediately why they need you and why they want you. And you've got some great, it's great to see your form is on every page, so you do make it easy for people to contact you on there. So yeah, that's a quick brief through there, Eleanor, as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Elena. That's fantastic. And I hope that kind of sets the scene for everybody as well who's on the call. I imagine people will have their websites open. They're going through checking off some of those things. But if you do have questions on your site, pop them into the chat. What I'm going to do now is switch over to some Q&A. Just to remind folks, session is being recorded. We'll be sending it out in the next 24 hours or so. It'll be available on our website as well. So yeah, I wanted to kind of come back out of the websites a little bit. And Alistair, I'm going to come to you first. Looking back, was marketing something you considered when thinking of setting up your firm?
It was. I think the way we've started thinking about marketing has changed. I think, when in the early days, we sort of thought, well, we'll need a website, we'll need to do stuff on social media. I think we had quite a vague idea of what that meant, and a lot of it, and I think with marketing, I mean, it's of course this massive wide topic, and it covers things like how your relationships with existing clients and how you go back to them and get repeat work. And so in the early days, we as I say, we were kind of thinking about the basics. The website, social media, or LinkedIn particularly, was something that I got quite into over in the sort of year before we started, or maybe 9 months, and was really trying to build up sort of connections, getting to know people. But also my thought was, look, we're going to launch this firm in probably 6 months before we launched, and thinking, we need to have people who are interested in this to tell about it. And so I couldn't really post anything at that time. I was still at my last firm. I couldn't really post anything about my new plans, but started doing posts about the kind of values and the kind of things that we were going to address, and sort of finding, I suppose, our tribe, finding people that were interested in what we might be doing, and connecting with them, getting to know them. And then, by the time we launched in December, we did have that kind of, there was a bit of a following, people who were interested to hear about that. I mean, more recently, we've just started working with a marketing agency called Inspo Hub, who are based in Brighton. And so I think the next step for us is getting a bit more technical on the marketing and thinking about, well, specifically, who are we going to market? Who are we trying to attract? How are we going to reach those people? Making sure we measure everything, and just kind of work out what's going to work for us. So it's it's an evolving process. We're learning so much every day. I mean, it's there's a lot to it.
I love the way that you described your tribe. I think that's a great way to describe your community, and bringing it all back to your tribe. What is it that your tribe wants and needs, and speaking to them. And Rachel was kind of bubbling that up earlier as well. Elena, was it similar for you? You've got a great social media presence as well. Was that something that you consciously made an effort to build before starting?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of very, very similar to Alistair, where you think, right, you need a website. So I effectively run a virtual law firm. Like, I don't have a shop front. It's not like I get any sort of passing traffic. You know, I work from a home office. I do have an office space in Manchester, but I'm not there. I am based from home, and that's more for somewhere, you know, for my post to go to. I can have meetings there, but if you don't have a shop front, so the next best thing really is your website. So your website is going to be your law firm shop front. So you know you need one, but when you're starting out, and if you've never done marketing before, you don't have a clue about any of these things. Like, it's such a huge learning curve. And what I say to everybody looking to start up their own law firms is that the law becomes the easy bit of your job. Okay, if somebody asks me a legal question or anything to do with rules or injury, I'm like, oh God, yeah, I can answer that. It's easy, it's simple. But somebody asks me about analytics on my website or my SEO score or anything like that, I'm like, you know, you could be talking a foreign language to me. It's that different and that distant to what you're used to and what you're comfortable doing as a solicitor. That you are a bit like a rabbit in headlights. You're really sort of taken back by how much work is involved in that side. So when I knew my website wasn't working, I was already getting a lot, most of my clients come through social media, which shows me that there's an issue with my website. And when I recognized that issue, that's when I said, well, I need to change it. And what happens is, when you have probably any business, but more so a legal business, when somebody sees, oh, it's a law firm, everything is so expensive. So it's thousands of pounds to redo your website. It's hundreds of pounds to do a social media post for you. Things can really sort of get really expensive. So I just said, well, I'd already paid for this website. I already had it. It was a WordPress website. I asked my developer for access to it. No problem, absolutely fine. I've got the rights to it. And I taught myself how to develop a WordPress website, and I actually did all my own amendments. And that saved me a bit of money in the short term. In the long term, as I generate more cases and I settle more cases, I would probably look to, get a professional on board to do those amendments and improvements for me when I can afford it and when I'm comfortable doing that. I think in the short term as well, alternative to a website, you need a website. Just get something out there. I do highly recommend that, a website, even I don't want to say a bad or poor website, but any website is better than no website as far as I'm concerned, because I will always look at somebody's website and I do want to see that there. But
Elena, I was just going to ask, did you launch your website before you actually started trading?
No, so I couldn't. I finished my full-time legal role on the Monday, and I launched my business on the Tuesday. So my website only went live on that Tuesday or the Monday evening, because I was setting up a personal injury firm and I was leaving a personal injury firm. So I didn't want there to be any sort of overlap or conflict. So no, I launched and pretty much only started marketing my own business when I finished my previous role. The other thing to do as well is, as soon as you know what, sort of like in the very beginning, in the very early days, as soon as you know what you want to call your firm, you want to obviously register the domain name. You want to get that registered as soon as possible. If you're going to have the word solicitor in your company name, then you need SRA approval to do that. I learned that the hard way by applying to Companies House twice before I realized that you actually need a letter from the SRA to say you can use the word solicitor or solicitors in your company name, and then you send that off to Companies House. So from there, obviously, do those bits first, because otherwise you could be wasting money on your domain names. Get your social media accounts as well, because so many names are already taken. So get those on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn as well, if you're going to be having your company profile on there, and on Twitter. So all these social media platforms are completely free to use, and I generate so many clients off places like Instagram that it's a little bit, I was even surprised by that. And LinkedIn is really, really good. A lot of people will say, well, if you're business to consumer, which I am, my clients are just everyday people, that LinkedIn isn't a place for that. But actually, it's anybody could be my client, as long as you drive a car, or you walk the streets, or you cycle, you're a pedestrian. So anybody, you can find clients absolutely anywhere. And what's great about these platforms is they're free to use, but you have to use them in the right way. Get your imagery right for Instagram. Obviously LinkedIn is a different type of content that they want to see on there, but all those platforms actually, for me, have and continue to perform better in terms of client generation in comparison to my website. And I think a lot of that is to do with me being in a highly competitive area of law and personal injury. It's incredibly difficult to get your website, on the first page. I don't think my website even comes up on the first 5 pages. So it's very, very difficult for me to get that organic sort of like client lead off Google. So the next stage would be to trial Google Ads. Again, highly competitive, can be very, very expensive, and you really need the right website, because you might get people clicking on your ad, but if your website doesn't convert that click into a lead, then you're wasting a lot of money on there. But marketing has been, the steepest learning curve by far in any, I would say, in any aspect of business ownership for me. It's been an eye-opener.
Alistair, you mentioned on one of our previous sessions, putting a website out there isn't the solution. So I think that, could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something you need to have. But the website in itself it's not enough to just put a website out there and hope that people are going to find you. You have to have a way of drawing people into that. So that might be social media. And Elena if you see Elena on LinkedIn, which I'm sure most people who've ever been on LinkedIn must have seen, she's and on Instagram, I think I do think actually you're doing a great job on there, because it's you're very visible. And but that's a way of driving people to your website. Also things like so if you podcasts or blogs, sending out the emails, it's a way of driving traffic to the website. And then, like Elena says, you have to have, I think the website should be able to give them some sort of clear way of either signing up for a mailing list or getting in touch with you, or whatever it is you want that person to do. So it's kind of thinking of it it's not just a purely passive thing that sits there and people find it and think, oh, that looks nice. And it has to, you have to think of how you're going to draw people into that.
Yeah, I think that's important. And then also not only draw people in, but move them along the journey as well. And I think there's some questions here around CTA and a CTA being call to action. And Rachel, coming to you on that, maybe could you describe, are there some calls to action that you would recommend people have on their websites? You call out some of them, I think, on Alistair and Elena's side, but
they did have their the calls to action. It's, if you do a free, book your free consultation, or book, or call now, or the contact forms, contact forms every page. Think about what you want them to do. Do you want them to call? Do you want them to email? What's the one thing you want them to do?
Great. And we're flying through. We've a lot of questions coming in, and we've spent a good bit of time on websites. Social media, I think we're going to actually try and break that out into another session itself. It's a monster in itself. But would like to talk a little bit more around what goes into a website, so the content element of it, and how each of you go around creating the content. How do you choose the content that you're going to put on your site, and you're both kind of creating more of that content now. How are you approaching that, being strict on your time, things like that? Alistair or Ellen, I'll come to you actually first on that question.
Yeah, so with in terms of content and what I actually put on my website, for me, the way I now approach my website and how I try to approach a lot of my social media posts is answering a question. So when you go into Google, the first thing that you do as an individual is you probably put a question in, like, what's the weather like today? Who's the nearest personal injury solicitor to me? You ask Google questions, and Google likes it if you can answer those questions. So if you have a website that answers these questions, well, you're doing Google's job for it, aren't you? And that's why it likes those types of website with that content on it. So I'm at the moment developing like a Q&A page of frequently asked questions, where somebody, you know, will have a question like, how much is my claim worth? Well, I will answer that. How long does a personal injury case take? Well, I can answer that as well. What do you charge? So it's focusing on that. It's focusing like, why is the client there? Well, they're there because they want to make a claim, but actually it's not as simple as that, because they'll have a lot of questions before they instruct you or before they instruct anybody. And the really important thing, which I actually bypassed and didn't realize just how important it was, is for anybody starting up a firm is to have a look at their competitors' sites. Now, I know when you're starting up, that sort of goes against the whole point of you starting up, because you have the idea of being different, of not, of being different to your competitors, not doing what they're doing, being better, maybe being bigger. My idea was always to be smaller. So I almost didn't look at their website. I didn't look at what they were doing, but actually these firms have been around far longer than my business has. So actually having a look at what your competitors are doing and seeing what you like and what you don't like is really, really important. And I had a look at some websites, and I saw that the questions and then the answers that they had were really, really good and really useful, and exactly what a client would be looking for on that site. So now at the moment it's sort of tailoring my site to answer those questions, the most likely questions that clients have, but also having 6 months experience of being a business owner, speaking to my clients directly, doing everything from client intake to settlement. I can also see the bits that are important to my clients, and what they ask me at the outset and what they ask me at the end is really important. So actually having that experience is really, really good. So if you are somebody that has a business, who's had a law firm for a little while, use your experience in that business to actually tailor your website to what you feel like any future clients will ask. My repeat clients, refer clients onto me, and that's really good. And I sort of look back at that relationship and think, right, well, what went really, really well? And sometimes I've taken over a case from another firm of solicitors, and that's not something that I highlight on my website, but actually I get a lot of inquiries about people wanting to transfer their cases to me. So that's something I think, well, that would be really good, because that would answer, can I transfer my file to you? And there's an answer right there. So if anybody goes into Google and says, can I transfer my file to a different solicitor? My website might organically pop up without me having to spend, £19 a click to get somebody to on that site. So it's definitely using that experience. But if you don't have that experience, or even if you do, having a look at your competitor's site, because they've been around much longer than you. They're doing well, generating hundreds of claims and employing lots of people. So actually they must be doing something right. Even if you don't want to use accident scene images on your website, it's definitely worth having a look on those.
You're completely right. There is ways for smaller law firms of content. If you put the right blog in, on many of my law firms clients, the right blog can often be the entrance point that they come into your website. It's not always your home page. So if you are thinking what people are typing in there, there's every chance that, it is not impossible to come up number 1 with the right blog.
Yeah. I'm going to just fire through some more questions. We have 5 minutes left, so conscious of time and conscious of the amount of questions that we're getting in. So what we'll do, we might go a little bit over on time, but just to remind everyone, we are recording. We will try and stick to the 12 minutes or to the 60 minutes. We'll send out the recording afterwards. So we do have a question here around, I'm going to condense it a little bit, but it's around clients sharing large size bundles of cases or related to cases with you. Any useful tips on capacity and security when it comes to that? Alistair, Elena, are either of you using the Clio's the client portal when it comes to client sharing documents with you?
I have used that. I don't use it all the time. I think most clients that I work with tend to be most comfortable with email, but I have used it for either things that are particularly need to be particularly secure, or for larger files, it's a good way of sharing.
Yeah, I haven't used the Clio portal, but I haven't had many large files sent to me. Everything has been generated by email. The other alternative is the is it OneDrive, where you can just generate a link to it, as opposed to, and you can add security, and you can add a password to that, and you can set it for a certain number of days. So if you set a password and you ask in an email, so what I generally do is I deal with a lot of medical records, which unhelpfully GP and hospitals still send in the post. So you've got to scan all that, and then you've got to secure it on your own system, which is in Clio, which is fine. But then when you want to send it to a medical expert to review, then I think it's OneDrive that I use, and I will add a password, and I will make it available for 14 days, and I'll ask them to call me for the password. I'll take them through data protection, and then I'll give them the password over the phone. So that's really, I think, the most that anybody can really do without going into the encryption side of emails. We've all got to be extremely safe in terms of dealing with sensitive client data on a day-to-day basis. This is more touching on compliance, and something that is incredibly important. It can make or break or firm if you're found to breach your client data, with the fines that law firms can face. So if you're working somewhere, one of the first things I did was get a lock and have a secure storage space in my house where it's locked. I only have access to it, and that holds certain sensitive records. And then get a shredder, a cross shredder for all your sensitive, data and things like that. But obviously, the cyber security side is just as important as any physical side. So yeah, there's definitely OneDrive is something that I use.
Okay, and we'll follow up, Tatiana, with your question as well, separately. It is a little bit off topic from today's session, but we'll get you the answer to your question. So what I'm going to jump into now very quickly is budgeting. We haven't really touched on it much, but roughly, and to try and be as brief as possible, how much time are you spending on marketing on a weekly or daily basis? Alistair, come to you first.
When you said budgets in there, Jones, so I thought you meant like price.
So yeah, budgeting, you could look at time, you could look at, I was going to get to pricing as well, of budgeting, how much of a marketing budget have you put aside? But yeah, Alistair, come to you first with that question maybe, and then Elena, come to you next.
So on a time point of view, I mean, it changes for me. I think I started out with really good intentions of blocking out some time each week to do social media and things, and then inevitably I get busy and don't do that. That's the thing that gets pushed to the side. So I certainly go on LinkedIn every day, and not post every day because I just can't come up with content. I don't know. I don't have the headspace at the moment to do that. But to engage with other people's content, and it's a great way. It's LinkedIn is not just about advertising. It's about networking. You get to know people, and I would say I haven't had that much direct work from LinkedIn, but I've had a lot of referrals from people that I've got to know through LinkedIn, and then they've sent other people to us. So it's about relationships, and I think when you understand that, then it becomes a much more interesting thing. So in terms of time, I don't think there's a fixed amount of time per week at the moment. It varies so much.
Okay. I'm conscious, speaking of the word time, we're at 12 o'clock. So I'm going to try and wrap up now. We did have a lot of questions. All three of you are very active on social media, so I imagine you probably will be able to continue some of these conversations on social media, and we'll definitely be coming back to marketing as a session in this series, touch on some other big areas around social media and even budgeting, which we didn't get fully into today. To wrap up, I do want to do a quick one round the room, ideally one sentence answer. What one tip do you have for firms who are either setting up today or are working on overhauling their existing firm website? Rachel, come to you first on that one.
Invest in your website, because it's your virtual shop window now, more important than ever. So yeah, invest in that. And if you need anybody needs any help, they can contact me for a branding or a website questionnaire.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. Elena, come to you next with that question.
Yeah, put yourself in your client's shoes. To me, that's vital. Pretend that you're the client. Get somebody who's not involved in your business, not involved in law, to look at your website and tell you if it does the job or not.
Thank you, Elena. And Alistair.
I'd say with websites and branding generally, don't be afraid to be different. It's a bit of a tightrope getting it right, but you know, there's no point, if you're a new business, there's no point looking like every other business that's already out there. Put something of yourself into it, and you know, that would be what distinguishes you.
Great, thank you, Alistair. And with that, I'm going to wrap up our session. Just to thank Alistair, Elena, and Rachel for joining us. A really fantastic session, lots of questions. I really appreciate you putting the time into our session this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Take care.